Already, 15 of the units are in use throughout New South Wales, half of them in the northern region. They were designed and built by Sydney company Special Purpose Vehicles to the requirements of the RTA and were introduced to Coalfields transport operators in a demonstration at Cessnock today. 3 main things can be tested: the efficiency of the brakes, any wear and tear in the vehicle's suspension system, and the accuracy of its steering. As well, the device can weigh the truck. Until now, RTA officers could order truck or bus drivers to the nearest motor registry for a compulsory survey, but now it can all be done by the roadside in rapid random tests.
Yes, a prime mover without any major defects can be put through the whole unit with a minimum of fuss in about 8 minutes.
80% of defect notices that are issued are for suspension, brake or steering problems rather than any other malfunction.
It is rather alarming for us, and we want to reduce that down to an acceptable level.
Well, so much for the big vehicles. What about small vehicles, the family car?
Yes, the truckalizer can also check the small vehicles. It'll check all types from the small to the very large type of vehicle and give the same result.
Legislative changes will have to be made before RTA officers themselves can flag down small vehicles for a test, but already family cars are being randomly checked in cooperation with the police, who have that power.
This comprehensive statement that covers such diverse matters as employment, housing, health, transport and the environment is of particular significance to Mrs Chadwick. It is one she has tried to implement since she was in opposition.
Too often in the past, those services and facilities have been designed without the needs and interests and particular perspective of women in mind, and so we're identifying that. We're also identifying a commitment in various areas of government activity to redress that, and clearly setting out a strategy of how that can be achieved.
She said the policy is a commitment to achieving real equality for women by ensuring that all legislation and policies take account of the changing needs, interests and skills of women in the state.
So it's the first time ever in Australia that we have had that very simple and very practical recognition and upfront statement of what we intend to do to assist women, and hence a checklist that the community can come back and measure us by.
Copies of the policy will be available from offices of the Department of Family and Community Services. And though it was welcomed by women today, it was realised that no policy is worth the paper on which it is written unless it is acted upon.
But I think it's important that it has an implementation plan from each of the areas mentioned, and that there's some monitoring of those initiatives.
Despite the tremendous club effort against the Steelers, which lifted Newcastle to 5th position in the club championship, a tinge of sadness as Michael Hagan dislocated her shoulder and will be out of state of origin contention and unavailable for the Knights for some weeks. In the first half of the match, Ashley Gordon chalked up his 5th and 6th try of the season. Man of the match Mark Sargent promised his sick mother a try and he didn't let her down. The defence was rock solid and Glenn Frendo made a superb try-saving tackle on Wishart. Illawarra weren't to be denied and scored a ripper. But diminutive halfback Steve Fulmer put the issue beyond doubt. And Mark Sargent was quick to play down his own performance.
The man charged with accepting community input into the plan is John Newbury. He says the steering committee's suggestions were designed simply to focus public debate, but that all submissions will be considered by the state government. He says the decision on where to terminate the rail line has created the most controversy.
And I think it's a shame that it is overshadowing the other part of the study to some extent. The service that the rail provides is important, but the potential that the land offers and the redevelopment of the land for Newcastle and the Hunter region far outweighs what will happen with that bit of heavy rail infrastructure, I believe.
He admits that submissions have not been flooding in, but expects more before the June the 1st deadline. State Rail says it can vacate the land completely by December. Newbury says that whichever option is chosen, the momentum must not be lost.
It provides an opportunity for a city to turn around the way that it's going, and I think it would be fair to say that Newcastle CBD is in some decline. If it can focus a revival around 17 prime hectares, then I think there's every chance that it will develop in the next decade rather than decline further.
Believe it or not, the Waratah Bowling Club is not the oldest in the Newcastle district. That honour goes to the City Club, which has had various roles in recent years. So proudly, the WBC consider themselves as the longest serving club. From the first minute book, which recorded the meetings conducted until early in the 20th century, to the numerous photos depicting Waratah's history, it's nostalgia time for the club and its patrons and members. For President Jack Johnson, Waratah Bowling Club should be justifiably proud of its record.
It's put down a team effort from players and committee who joined forces to make sure that the club functions very well.
Built around the working class, a new clubhouse was commissioned in 1956, and in its 100 years, the club has developed into a highly successful organisation. 5 former state bowlers took to the greens once again today to play a match against Newcastle state representatives. They included Roy Hill, Charlie Frost, who is the current state chairman of selectors, Doug Howard, John McCormick and the legend Barry Salter, who for all his bravado was deeply touched by the occasion.
Inside with all the memories of the people gone by, like the George Hempsons and Cole McCormicks and Ellis Crew and so on, a little tear gets in your eye. You know, I was there for 25 years before I went away to another job, and yeah, it's great.
Barry, obviously good grounding. You played all your representative bowls from Waratah.
Yeah, and it just shows back through that period of time. There's been about, I was lucky enough to be in the club with about 10 number 1 pennants in that time involved in it. So the standard was so high that the club is still producing this sort of bowler.
It's a problem common to many city suburbs, school-age and unemployed young people with nothing to do and no place to go. Complaints of antisocial behaviour, underage drinking, drug use and break-ins are often heard in Boolaroo.
I'm open here practically every night except Tuesday, and all I see is kids walking up and down the street. They don't actually come in, might just come in for a drink or so, but they obviously haven't got any money to buy pizza. But yeah, they're just walking around the streets, you know, it doesn't really look good.
This is one suburb where the kids have had enough, and they want to do their bit to clean up the streets. Tonight they held a meeting, elected a committee and started a petition which they'll present to council. They've got their sights set on the old library building in Boolaroo as a no drink, no drugs drop-in centre.
If they've got something to do, they can stay there and whatever they want to do, like pinball machines or watch TV. And you know,
pub and play pool,
they don't go to the pub and there's no fighting or drugs or anything like that on the streets. I reckon it'll be all right, no vandalism, I reckon it'll be all right.
Well, they've got nowhere else to go. They can all go there, get together, talk, just have fun without being in trouble, play pool and make things and stuff like that, and staying out of trouble while they're doing it.
Do you think a drop-in centre would help eliminate the problem down here?
Well, if it was run by the right people, I think so. With a drop-in centre, you know, if it's not run by the right people, it could be another hangout joint for them, sort of, and crime could form from that. But if the right people are running it, I think so. I have to give it a go.
The plan has a long way to go before it meets council and police approval, but so far a number of local businesses have added their support by providing pinball and video games. Police will be asked to sanction the plan and run regular patrols of the drop-in centre once it's up and running.
Day 2 of the committal proceedings was in contrast to yesterday's lengthy sitting, with 80 of the 86 exhibits, which included dozens of statements already tabled. The hearing was over by midday. However, the small gallery was once again crowded with reporters and the dead girl's relatives and friends. 2 witnesses took the stand, Detective Constable Grant Connolly to the left and Detective Constable David Kane centre, who went to Stockton in February to bring the accused man, Matthew Webster, back to Newcastle for a further interview, during which he allegedly made a statement admitting to the killing of Lee at a Stockton beach party last year. Both were questioned at length today by Webster's counsel, Stephen Churches. Under cross-examination, both Detectives Connolly and Kane rejected a suggestion by Mr Churches that Webster had appeared reluctant to accompany them or that they'd forced him into their police vehicle. Magistrate Jeff Brown said he was of the opinion that Webster had a case to answer on charges of murder and maliciously inflicting grievous bodily harm with intent to commit sexual assault. Webster was committed to a Newcastle Supreme Court hearing on a date to be appointed. Bail was not sought and Webster will remain in custody. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Over the last year, Council has undertaken numerous studies on the Newcastle CBD and its future. These include studies on urban design and heritage, transport development and landscape. Alderman Dennis Nichols believes Council has investigated every aspect of the city centre and something definite should now be done.
It's time now to stop looking at studies. We've done all of the studies. It's now time to pull them together and put together a proper plan for the future of the city.
Last night, Council agreed to develop a comprehensive plan for the city.
The city is at a state now where it needs to have a total package put together so that people can see if we're to attract some proper investment into the city, then it's much easier to sell if you've got a structure in a single document that people can look at and see where it's going.
Meanwhile, work on the Hamilton ambulance station is expected to begin next month. The station will be restored to its original appearance, while facilities including the control room will be modernised, all at a cost of $1 million. Once the new ambulance headquarters at Charlestown is complete in 1992, the building will be downgraded to a mere station. Jodie McKay for NBN News.
As part of its remodelling, Western Suburbs Leagues Club has incorporated a state-of-the-art gymnasium with the latest equipment, from rowing machines that have a visual screen output which lets you know your effort level, to a killer machine to test the best cardiovascular condition. And that's what it's all about, according to Chief Instructor Danny Morrow.
We're primarily dealing with the cardiovascular fitness area, and that's the whole gym has been designed around that specific area of fitness. As you mentioned, #1 killer in Australia, and what we're trying to do is improve fitness levels in basically people in ages ranging from 18 to 80 years old.
A former strength coach with the Brisbane Broncos rugby league team, Danny wants to make fitness the key issue, not a centre that's going to build Mr Olympias.
Well, I think our program is specifically designed towards fitness, and that's how we differ from other gymnasiums. Some gymnasiums err towards the side of bodybuilding, weight training, etc. We're erring more towards the side of fitness.
And Danny Morrow will be a guest on Sports Centre Sunday this week to talk about fitness for all ages.
These are the dogs you want as man's best friend. Rottweilers have been around for more than 2,000 years. In Roman times they were used in battle. These days they fight a different war.
I think in today's environment, with the crime rate being as it is, to have a Rottweiler in your yard maybe is a little bit of a deterrent.
Rottweilers can stand up to 1 metre tall and weigh 80 kilos. More than 5,000 of them are registered in New South Wales. At the inaugural Northern State Championships at Hillsborough today, dogs were judged on type, colour, temperament and movement. If you're interested, a good puppy can cost around $1,000. Despite their ferocious appearance, club members say with training they make the perfect pet.
I have young children with my dogs running all day, no problems at all.
This is the first rehearsal for the orchestra since it was restructured earlier this year. Musical director Roland Peelman has taken over from Ulrich Burstein, who died tragically of kidney failure. Peelman ruffled some feathers when he called for the re-auditioning of all musicians applying for a position with the orchestra, an action he defends on 2 grounds.
We have to go along with union rules in the first place, and with our artistic aims, which is really, trying to provide the very best for the Hunter Orchestra.
The orchestra's goal this year is quality at the expense of quantity. There will be no more than 40 players performing 3 short, well-rehearsed seasons. The first concert will be in City Hall tomorrow night, but Friday 2,500 school children will hear the orchestra perform Peter and the Wolf, narrated by Vic Rooney, in the University Great Hall.
We're trying to offer a wide variety of repertoire this year so that people of more sophisticated taste will be delighted, as well as people who really want to hear their favourite tunes.
The Melbourne Conference for Victims' Rights was the first of its type, bringing together legal experts, police, counsellors and the victims themselves. 7 resolutions emerged, among them calls for a levy on convicted offenders to help their victims, a declaration of victims' rights enshrined in legislation, and the rights of victims to address a judge and jury prior to sentencing. Nolene Tasoulis and Dawn Gilbert are victims of crime themselves. Dawn's 19-year-old daughter Tracy was shot dead by a former boyfriend. The sister of Nolene Tasoulis was slain by her ex-husband. Both women still live with their grief, but they're passionately committed to improving the plight of those who lose loved ones to violent crime.
At present, what sort of rights do victims have in this state?
As far as I can see, we have no rights. No rights at all.
None. They have no rights that I can see. You just go into court. You can't have legal representation because the Crown it's the Crown's case, as Mr Dowd pointed out to us. It's not our case. I mean, we just bury our loved one and supposed to get on with our lives.
Noeline and Dawn are members of 2 of 4 Newcastle families who set up the Justice for Victims of Violence Association, inspired by a conviction that justice wasn't done when their loved ones were slain.
On a personal level, I feel we do a lot for each other, and I think it doesn't matter how well-educated psychiatrists, psychologists or anybody is. I think, you know, to go through it is the only real way of knowing how other people feel.
A fledgling group 6 months ago, they've attracted nationwide interest and are on the verge of being incorporated. At the Melbourne conference, Noeline was elected to help set up a national organisation. Her message at the seminar was that the punishment must fit the crime. Her sister's killer was released from jail only months ago. For his crime, he served 2 years and 5 months.
2 years, 5 months. And he shot my sister 4 times.
This was the first Andrew and Anna Pike knew of the blaze that destroyed their home. With the fire extinguished, the young couple picked their way helplessly through the charred ruins in a state of shock. Everything was destroyed, their pet dog was killed. Miraculously, a cat and birds in backyard cages survived the inferno. Other family pets were plucked to safety by quick-thinking neighbours.
Just coming home, we just saw a red flashing light and then this, and then we just turned up.
Eyewitnesses say flames leapt to treetop level as firefighters from the local bushfire and Maitland brigades fought to extinguish the blaze. Early fears that the Pikes' children were trapped inside were put to rest when they were found safe and sound with friends.
The people owning the place, they weren't here, and they did have some little kiddies, and we wasn't too sure just where they were, or at that time. We did find out after, but we wasn't sure at that time whether there was anybody in the house or not.
Everything we had is gone.
With another baby due next week, the young family faces an uncertain future. The house contents were not insured. Homeless now, they're left only with the clothes they stand in.
Not much left of it at all. Not much at all. A fire like that leaves you with nothing.
So what happens from here?
Start again. That's all we can do. Start again.
Police say an electrical fault may be responsible for the fire. Scientific police will investigate. Leslie Robinson for NBN News.